What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. So today I wanted to make a video to show you guys how to get that more developed V-cut line, right? And at the risk of making sure this stays a G video, that line right here, right? We can see that kind of leads down towards the junk. Right? Now look, it's important though that we understand the anatomy, which we're going to get into, because when you understand the anatomy, it will guide how you train. We always talk about following the fibers and understanding it. But it always has to start, whenever we talk about anything abdominal in terms of revealing what we're going to see here, what we're trying to get, that V-cut area, it has to start with this sort of good news, good news situation. The good news is you guys know that on this channel, I'm never going to bullshit you. I'm going to give you the actual real advice that you need so you can start to make the improvements you need to make. Right? That's the good news. The second thing is the bad news is that it's going to take quite a commitment on your part through your nutrition to make this area visible, especially because we know that when men lose body fat, especially from around the waist, that they tend to lose it up top first, and it starts to come down here, and the last area to go is going to be that lower abdominal area. The most stubborn is going to be that lower abdominal area, meaning your level of consistency is going to have to be very high. You can't just do something for 2 weeks, a crash diet for 2 weeks, and think you're going to reveal this area down here. You're going to need to be consistent with nutrition to the point that you can lower your body fat level significantly enough to get down where those lower abdominal areas are low in body fat. So you're going to need to make sure you do that. Now, if you're looking for something to help guide you, I actually did a whole video on a very simple plate technique that I want you guys to use. It's going to simplify the nutrition process. Again, simplification will lead to consistency. If you'd rather have a step-by-step plan, I literally have my entire meal plan, exactly what I eat, included in all of our ATHLEAN-X programs over at ATHLEAN-X.com. So now, the good news though, because there's good news. Even though you have to do that, guys, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to start training the muscles that feed this V-cut, namely the obliques. Because we know that the obliques have visibility far up the chain here. They're not just visible down here at that line, right? They're not just down in here. They're all up in here. They're literally, the external oblique is feeding this area here. And we know, as we said, that we can start to lose body fat at a higher level of the torso, so we can start to see some of the tapering benefits of training the obliques. So it's good that you can start to focus on these things now, even while you're still working on the nutrition. Now let's talk about the anatomy. Actually, for the anatomy here, we're always going to break out the muscle markers. When we're talking about the V-cut, we're literally talking about the obliques. And I actually did this in a video before I showed you, and you can see here, this is what that quote-unquote V-cut area looks like when covered with fat. And this is the same area when the body fat is stripped off. What's the difference? Nothing, just the body fat. The level of development of the obliques is what stands out because the body fat is removed. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on the right area though, because there are two different obliques. We have the obliques that come in this direction here. Right? We know those are the external obliques, right? And they actually feed through their tendinous attachment into this thickened area over here. It's called an aponeurosis, the thickening where the muscle leads into a tendinous sheath, okay? And the bottom border of that is this inguinal ligament, all right? Just the bottom border that feeds that bottom border. But the bulk of this here, again, this whole thickening here is all coming from external oblique that's feeding down into that. Now, we also have the internal oblique that goes in the opposite direction. It feeds this way. Now, interestingly, what it does is it feeds perpendicularly into that aponeurosis, that thickening, okay, that's down into that inguinal ligament. The benefit of that and knowing that is that we talk about all the time the importance of following the fibers, right? Shortening of fiber in that direction, along its direction here, is going to help to develop that muscle. Well, we know that when a muscle contracts, it transmits force through the tendon that it blends into. So if we can have an impact on the tendon that it blends into, we know that we can actually feed into this aponeurosis and start to help to develop that more. How do we do that? We focus on the internal oblique. Now, while we can't see this because it's deep to the external oblique, we can actually activate it fairly easily. There's 3 components to doing this. The first thing you want to do is you want to lay down on the floor here like you're seeing me do, and you want to flatten that belly out. More importantly, you want to activate the transverse abdominis. The transverse abdominis is going to flatten the entire midsection. You can see that as soon as I do this, I immediately see that V-cut line pop more prominently. Why? Because the transverse abdominis has its own tendinous sheath that actually blends with the internal obliques tendinous sheath to attach right into this area that we're trying to impact. We know that if we can flatten the stomach by pulling the belly button down. So you can see me here. Again, to activate the transverse, I'm here and I draw in. And you can see once I draw in, this becomes more prominent. Again, out and relaxed, draw down and in. And it becomes more prominent here, okay? So the first part is that. The second part is getting just basic abdominal activation. We could do that with a posterior pelvic tilt, right? So if I'm on the ground here again, you can see me now on my back that I get that transverse abdominis activation and I pull up with the posterior pelvic tilt, getting the trunk to curl, getting more abdominal contraction. Now here comes the most important part. Rotation in the same direction of the side that you're trying to get to contract. Why? Because if you follow those fibers, guys, you realize that rotation in this direction, down in this direction, following the fibers, is going to make that internal oblique contract. If we can get contraction through that muscle, realizing that the force will transmit through that tendon, we can get an activation in this exact area that we're trying to target. Now we're going to go one side at a time. And to do that, you're going to do this exercise here. It's actually more of just a contraction drill. I'm going to do the 3 parts I said. I do the flattening, I do the trunk curl, and then I rotate in that direction. You can see and actually feel how intense of a contraction that is right on that line, right on that V-cut area. And what I want you to do is just use this again as a neuromuscular drill. I want you to include it with whatever ab training you're doing. If you're on our ATHLEAN-X programs, we train abs every single day. You can incorporate the additional work with just a couple extra sets of, let's say, 6 to 7 second contractions, 10 good quality ones, all right? The fact is, guys, if you do what I'm showing you here in conjunction with the nutrition and getting your nutrition in check, as you drop those body fat levels, this V-cut line will become much more prominent. Again, you can see here that when I make that turn in that direction, here and then in, that I get that V-cut line becoming more established and again, more visible. That's what you're trying to do, guys. There's your attack plan for making it work. I promise you, you're going to get better control of the area. A lot of it is guys just don't have good control over the area. They don't even know how to contract their abs, let alone or create a pelvic tilt, let alone get these areas to actually contract when we're talking about the obliques. But this is your attack plan for doing that. Hopefully you found the video helpful, guys. If you're looking for more science-based training and advice, you want to make sure you head over to ATHLEAN-X.com and get one of our training programs. Again, we put the science back in everything we do because it matters. In the meantime, if you found the video helpful, leave your comments and thumbs up below. Let me know what you want to cover, and I'll do my best to do that for you. And if you already done so, make sure you click subscribe and turn your notifications so you never miss a new video when we put one out. All right, guys, I'll see you soon.